Welcome to the Attractions Group podcast. This is episode 57. I'm Ryan Sir, along with Don. Don't tell me I'm back from Tennessee. Hellbig. Don, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's been a little bit of a rough week. I had some work on my eye done. I had like some clotting in that in my right eye, so I have a little bit of trouble seeing right now. But I don't have to see. All we need to do is talk, right?
Yeah, we just need to talk. And it's funny, just to fill people in, you were texting me yesterday. That's the reason why the show's a day late is because you didn't feel up to it yesterday, which is completely understandable. But the day before you went in, I had gone to like Target Optical for my normal thing, and they noticed an anomaly, and they said you should make an appointment with like a real ophthalmologist, not like a 3-day
Mhm.
weekend one that works at Target. And so I went there and they did this battery of tests. That was like 45 minutes. And everything was fine, by the way. But they said I was good to drive and stuff, but they're like, "Oh, you just won't be able to see up close." Well, that was true, but by not being able to see up close, I couldn't see like the instrument cluster on my car, so I had no idea how fast I was going. I had no business being on the
Yeah.
road. But for some reason I thought it was a good idea. It's 'cause I planned on going to the gym afterward because I didn't wanna miss a day because of this. So I went there and it was fine, but I couldn't, like, read my phone or my watch or anything, so I had a lot of trouble, like, operating Apple Music and stuff. So so it's crazy, but I'm glad you're doing better today, though.
Yeah. It's one of those things that when you get older, you're going to have those kind of things happen. And I had some clotting in my eye. I was having some, issues day to day. Some days it'd be a little better, some days worse. And then, it's just determined they needed to send me to the Eye Institute and had to get a shot to clear up the clotting. And I'll go back in September and probably get another shot in my eye. It's not fun. Um, and it's one of those situations the past couple of days, any kind of real like light in my eyes, and that just hard to keep it open, waters up and that, but very treatable. So I'm happy about that.
Did you get a fashionable pair of sunglasses from them?
No, 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 I didn't even think about that, and I went back out to my car and I couldn't keep my eyes open, so I'm sitting in my car for like 90 minutes to a couple hours just waiting for it to go down enough to where I could drive, and I couldn't see anything really out of my right eye, but my left eye was still, still really good, really strong on my left eye. But yeah, I didn't think about the sunglasses
Yeah, well,
until
okay,
after
so
they
full
dilate your eyes and you
disclosure,
walk outside and it's like instant pain.
I had my sunglasses in the car, I didn't think anything of it, and they were like, "We better give you a pair just to walk to your car," and I ended up with these. How do they look?
Lend them to me when I go back in September.
Absolutely. Yeah, they were free for me,
Yeah,
but,
lend them to me.
I can't see out of these, I'd leave them on. So for audio listeners, these are how do I describe these? These look like the 3D glasses you get at Universal Studios. They're plasticky,
Yeah,
they
yeah, anything like that. I mean, I didn't even think about walking outside, and then the sunlight hit, and it was, I had to sit in my car with my eyes shut because I couldn't keep them open for a couple hours there, and
yeah.
then driving home, trying to keep the eyes open was tough. But it's treatable what I have, and by the time in a couple weeks from now, the vision will be back. We just got to make sure it stays okay, and so that's been my week so far. Ryan, how about you?
Well, it's funny because we both had, eye incidents this past week. Yeah, no, I've had a pretty decent week. It's been pretty exhausting. For those, not for this podcast necessarily yet. We'll get on that, but I made some new graphics for Tower Topics. So that's our Kings Island podcast. So look for that. Haven't really got the chance to plug that yet. Um, so I spent a lot of time on that. That stuff is far more time consuming than people think, and it's far more frustrating. One thing I did want to bring up though and I wanted to address this on the show. Um, We've gotten a lot of private messages. I don't know if you've seen this or not, Don, but we get a lot of people asking one or both of us to be on other podcasts or show ideas and stuff. I want you to know that we do see that. We're not ignoring you. We will get around to helping out as many of you as possible. Keep the show ideas coming, especially. This is just a very very busy time for both of us. But we'd love to come join as many of you as possible on your podcast and talk about the different parks and stuff. But for now, just know that we do get it. We're not ignoring you. I promise. So Uh, Before we go any further, make sure that you follow us on all your favorite podcast apps, Apple, Google, Spotify. You know the drill. If you like the video version, we can be found on YouTube by searching for the Attractions Group Podcast. And oh yeah, Twitter, X, whatever. Attractions underscore GRP. That's a really good one to follow because we tweet stuff, I guess you still call it. So speaking of busy, Don, you were out of town. I imagine there's a Bucky's in there, maybe two. Tell me about your trip.
There is two Buckies. Went to Tennessee last week, 4-day trip down there, and started out, with the stop at the Richmond Bucky's. We've talked about that many times on the episodes here about how much that we love Bucky's, especially me. And I was super excited to hit my first stop at the Bucky's in Sevierville. It's the largest in the country for all the Bucky's, and very impressive. You when I first pulled in the parking lot, you just see that many more pumps than what you see in Richmond. It's designed a little bit differently. Everything seems to be opposite. Where when you walk in, what's on the left-hand side in Richmond is on the right-hand side at Sevierville, but the same exact kind of items that you would find at both places. Same quality with the food. I wanted to, just taste it to see, different things to see if there was any difference, just like I did when I went to the one in Daytona Beach, in the fall. And no difference. Still the same high quality. You don't think about great food at a gas station, but Bucky's has it. And I got the 3-meat sandwich at Sevierville, along with a melt to take back to my cabin to have for a late night snack there. And stopped on the way back to at both locations again. But that really was something that I'd been looking forward to for months, to be able to hit that one. So it was great to do that the first night down there. Went to a Tennessee Smokies baseball game. They're the Double-A affiliate of the Chicago Cubs. Loved minor league baseball when I lived in Greensboro, North Carolina. The Carolina League was down there, so I spent my summer in Greensboro in 1996 just traveling around, going to places like Hickory and Winston-Salem and Greenville and all those different stops, Durham, to check out minor league baseball. Just really loved it, so it was fun to see a game there again. And the Tennessee Smokies, their CEO, his name is Doug Kirchhoffer, and he was one of the 3 owners of the Cincinnati Cyclones when they first came to town in 1990, and just one of the best bosses that I ever had. He wasn't there that night, but we were able to touch base earlier in the day, and it was great hearing from Doug. And just I always think about how good he was to me, and he was a big reason why I was able to enjoy the career that I had doing PR and eventually social media. So, always want to make sure that I thank Doug. You always think back to who got you started, who's responsible, those kind of things, and it certainly was Doug Kirchhoffer there. The islands, Pigeon Forge, we've talked about that. Lots to see, lots to do there. You can spend all day there. You can spend just a couple hours, but just a lot of entertainment. They've got some fun rides. They got better flat rides at the island than you see at some amusement and theme parks. So that was fun there. Nice restaurants also on the strip there with that. Apple Barn. Do you really go to that part of Tennessee if you don't stop at the Apple Barn? Then there were some unique dining experiences that I had. I like these roadside attractions.
Mhm.
So had a couple of those. One was called Boss Hogs Barbecue, very close to the island. But you drive by and it just looks like somebody's, junky front yard or whatever. But some of the best barbecue that I've ever had, certainly in that part of the country in Tennessee, there, the best barbecue that I've had. I got the pulled pork and the sausage, just both outstanding. So thought about that on my way back, that I can't wait to get back to Tennessee again in November to stop at Boss Hogs. And then there was another place called Chubby's. There was a sign that said voted number 1 by our family.
I saw the picture.
That caught my yeah, voted number 1 by our family. I had to stop there and check that out. Now they had what they called their famous burger. This thing was humongous. So you had like 2 patties, you had the shredded cheese, you had like pulled pork on it, and it was just so thick. I mean, I couldn't eat it all. I had to take some of it back to the cabin. It was that big, and it was delicious. I'd have to put that as the best burger that I've ever had. I've never tried the pulled pork and the shredded cheese and 2 patties on a burger like that before. Um, but definitely, the family runs it, home cooking, Southern cooking right there at its finest. Looks like a little dive when you drive, down the road and you see it, and you're thinking, heck, no, I'm not going to stop there. How good can it be? It's outstanding. So if you're in, the Pigeon Forge area, definitely stop by Chubby's. Definitely worth your time. Check out that burger. You won't regret it. It'll feed four. It's that big.
Oh yeah.
With that, and then it was Dollywood. I stopped there on Saturday, and Dollywood's Dollywood. I mean, it's great. Got to experience my first rides on Big Bear Mountain, and it lived up to what I was expecting it to be based on what everyone else was saying. Everyone else was just raving about it. So it met and exceeded those expectations. I thought the theming was very well done. I like that it's a story-driven attraction. A lot of twists, turns, drops, uh, just a lot of fun. So it was one of those rides that satisfies both the thrill seeker, but it also is great for the families. The younger guests who want to ride it. Very rideable. Got off the ride, wanted to ride it again, so I did that a couple of times. If you're a photographer, some great photo spots with that coaster, but then also did the other favorites, Thunderhead, the Dollywood Express, um, you know uh, some of the other ones that are there too, Mystery Mine, rode that. So yeah, just had a great time. Got Time Saver. I highly recommend that because that definitely allowed us to make the most of our day. I was there with my wife Laura, and it definitely allowed us to make the most of our day. So I would highly recommend getting Time Saver when you go to Dollywood. And did you really visit Dollywood if you don't get the cinnamon bread, right?
Well, yeah. Well put.
So yeah,
But let's
so yeah, that
yeah.
was kind of the thing I got on the way out. But Lightning Rod, rode that, and tremendous coaster. I was asked. I posted some pictures on X and Facebook, and was asking people what their favorite Dollywood coaster was, and it was pretty well spread out. And then people started asking me, well, what's my favorite? And it's a tough decision, but I think after riding Big Bear Mountain, there's a lot to like about that coaster. I think if I could only ride one there, that's the one I'm going to pick. Is Big Bear Mountain just a lot of fun?
Yeah, I completely agree. And what was funny was, when I rode Big Bear Mountain a couple months ago, um, my initial impression was they announced the ride and they said it was the biggest. They probably leading up, if I don't recall, but
Mhm.
they said it was the biggest investment in Dollywood history. And they announced the ride, and I was like, man, what's the cost of steel if that's the most expensive ride in Dollywood history? But then you ride it, and the thing just
Mhm.
does not end. It just every time you think it's about to
Does
hit
not
the
end.
station, you make a turn and there's this whole other section of track. Um, the
Exactly.
trains are
And
beautiful. They look like they've kicked up mud because they're trucks. They're well crafted. This is modern Vekoma, so it's like Vekoma went from being the Big Lots of what they do to being the Cadillac of what they do over the course of the past 20 years.
Yeah, just phenomenal
Oof.
ride. And you're right, it just keeps on going and going and going. It's 4,000 feet, but it seems a lot longer than that, and just nonstop. And I liked, how you, when you get out of the station, there's not that traditional lift hill.
Right.
So that was a lot of fun, and I liked the audio, as you're going through, and like I said, the storytelling that goes along with it, but very well themed. Um, just a fantastic coaster.
Yeah, I mean, let's
Great
talk
addition
about
to
the
that park.
onboard audio because onboard audio is something that everybody tried and everybody failed at 20 years ago or so. But this seems to be working. We do have the onboard audio from this ride in its entirety on our YouTube channel. If you search for the Attractions Group podcast,
Mhm.
the people at Vekoma were nice enough, in addition to giving us hats, to let me record that from the lead car that they had there showing off. But one thing that I did notice was they put enough detail into it that when you're going through, it plays the dun, 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 the theme stuff. But anytime the
Right.
bear growls, it's not onboard audio. It's a speaker outside. The most notable part is when you're going through the little tunnel with the waterfall. It's
Waterfall, yep.
very distinctly there's a growl, but it's not coming from the onboard speakers, and that gives you like an awesome little like 3D audio effect of actually feeling like there's a bear there. The little waterfall, by the way, I put up a tweet about that, and that went crazy. That's one of the most photogenic things in the theme park industry. The thing it coming through the train coming through the tunnel's probably only about 15 feet long, It's exposed on one side so you can see it, but there's a waterfall in front of it, and then I don't know if you noticed this or not, but it has a water plume that goes up as the train is passing,
Hmm.
and that's where you hear the
Yeah.
growl. But that's one of the most photogenic spots in the theme park industry, I would say. It's
Yeah, took a lot of photos there. I think I posted one of them on my Facebook and my ex, and that sounds weird. Doesn't say my ex, but it it's just so much fun. And when as I was riding the different coasters and that there, I started thinking about they have a great enthusiast event, Thrills in the Hills, that they do every year. Um, that's something I definitely want to take part in next year. You should do it too, Ryan.
yeah, I mean, I would definitely be up for it. They, from all the accounts I've seen, they take pretty good care of the enthusiast. It'd be cool to go down there and we could have Doug Kirchhoffer on the program. Yeah, if he's in the area because I've
Yeah.
always heard legends about that guy. He kind of built something from nothing with the Cyclone, so I'd love to hear his perspective on, you know, the Cyclones and
Yeah, he took a chance on me, and I always appreciate that because without me starting in 1990 with the Cincinnati Cyclones and the opportunities that he gave me,
mhm.
I certainly don't go on to work 18 years in hockey, followed by 17 years in the theme park industry because I had the PR background from hockey. So, he saw something in me, gave me a chance, and I'll always be grateful to him for that.
Did he was he like I mean, there's a certain something to be said about, a good boss as far as giving you a chance and stuff, but was he, like, appreciative and stuff? Was he always, like, fun to be around?
Oh yeah,
I've always heard about this guy, but I've never
yes.
met him yet, so I'm looking forward to actually meeting him someday.
What I liked about him is he was a very good communicator with everybody. We had a run in the second season in 1991-92 where we were selling out every night. The Cincinnati Gardens, 10,000 seats. We let all of minor pro hockey in attendance and did better than a couple NHL teams. They made sure he and the other two owners they made sure that the staff was recognized, appreciated. Um, they would come in and they were based in Tennessee, but they were always there, game days and those kind of things. And you'd have calls with them during the week, but just very approachable, always thanking you at the end of the night. I'd be faxing out the game sheets to all the different media outlets and that. And for those of you that don't know, look up fax machine. That's how things were communicated back then to the media. And but he was, always, very thankful and, appreciative. And we'll see you next week, one of those kind of things. And anything I can help you with, what do you need to do your job? One of those kind of bosses. And, um, just a great guy. And there's a reason he's had so much success in his career.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, I've never met him. I've heard stories from you and others about him, but it sounds like just the attitude that he brought to the table in addition to the innovation and the risk taking and stuff is probably why he's in the position he's in right now, still being an
Yeah.
owner and
Yeah. Well, we just had so much fun. We weren't expected to do what we did. So, I mean, just at that time, the front office was six people.
mm,
By the time I left 6 years later, it was 40 something people. But, so you wore a lot of hats, you got to do a lot of things.
mm.
So the exposure that I got to all those things made me very well rounded and prepared for the things that I did in the future. And again, without him, I don't get to do what I did. And I'm not doing these podcasts with you, Ryan.
Well, we would have found a reason to do these podcasts. Maybe we talk about minor league hockey.
Paths never would have crossed without
That's
that.
true, that's true. Alright, but enough about, your old bosses and stuff and your vacation.
Yes.
Let's talk about me now. No, I'm just kidding. What do you wanna talk about today for the podcast?
It's that time of the year. The Halloween events are getting ready to open, and around this time of year, every year, USA Today puts out its poll on its USA Today's 10 Best Readers' Choice Travel Awards contest, and they've nominated 20 Halloween events to be up for vote for the best theme park Halloween event in the nation. They have a panel of experts that select these parks. Um, so they're nominated. You can vote once per day until the voting ends. And the voting will end on September 18th at noon Eastern time. They'll announce the winner on September 29th. But, all the major parks are out there with their Halloween events. Um, so, Ryan, you look at this list of 20 um, parks that are up for this event, for this contest. What event are you most excited about out there in the industry for the Halloween season?
Totally unbiased, but I'm, in 2 weeks, roughly, I will be going to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Orlando, and I could not be more excited about that. We'll obviously do an episode on it because that's a whole subject in itself. But we went through the trouble of buying the not the season pass that gets you through the whole event, but through September. So I'm going to be gone for about 10 days and we're going to go several nights. I bought Express for a night. We're going to take a VIP tour of 3 of the houses like during the day. And we're going to Universal during the day.
You know what? That's gonna change how you do once you do those VIP tours, you can't go back. You gotta do it every time you go
Well,
then.
this is a behind the scenes thing. It's not like I'm escorted to the
Yeah.
front.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, you're gonna wanna do that every time you
Yeah,
go.
so the other friends that we're going with, they're doing the tour with us, and then, they're gonna do the bigger tour, which is, like 6 houses or something, we're doing 3. They're doing that in the like, sometime closer to the end of the event, um, but, I'm super excited about it, and the reason why I like, the Universal Orlando stuff, y you talk about, like, putting budgets into stuff, all that sort of stuff, and clearly, Universal Orlando has by far the biggest budget of any Halloween event. Fight me, bro. It's almost certainly true. It's not about that though. For me, it's they're offering a different experience. Almost anywhere else, it's you go through, you have creepy scenery and stuff, and you got people jumping out trying to jump scare you. That's fine, and that's 99% of haunted houses out there. The reason why Universal Orlando is a Halloween Horror Nights is special is because as opposed to doing that, they actually put you into the experience of being in a horror movie. So you go through and, I haven't been there in about 6 or 7 years, but one thing I do remember is, they had a Halloween themed maze. I think it was like Halloween 4. That's the cool thing about it is they'll do Halloween 2 one year and then they'll do Halloween 4 another year. And they'll have scenes from it, but distinctly, one thing that's kinda stuck out at me as, like, a really cool effect was, Michael Myers popped up from behind a fence, and it made the sound effect of, like, the thing, like the high pitched classic horror thing. So he could have jumped out and made a noise and made us jump, but instead of that, we
Mhm.
felt like we were in the movie. Additionally, they had an Exorcist one, and it was the original Exorcist. I think now they're doing the like 2019 or whatever it is Exorcist this year, so I'll see that as well. But in the past, they did the Exorcist, and it was like a diorama. You go from one room to the next, which outlays each scene from the movie. One thing that was kind of cool was they had a very realistic looking mannequin that looked like Linda Blair with its head spinning around in circles, and an actor that was dressed as a priest yelling, "The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!" And one thing that's kind of neat, and I'm guessing they still do this now, is that nobody has lines. Everything is just in the can. They step on a pad or something like that, and it plays the audio. So it leaves no room for improvisation or anything like that. It's all the way that the creative director wanted it to be, and it's all directly lifted from the movies. So I think that's like the coolest thing ever. What do you look for in a Halloween event?
Well, for me, I look for it's about the atmosphere, and the decor. You need both of those to be working to kind of get you into the spirit of the season. So that's first and foremost for me. But then, you look at the scare actors and the attention to detail to the makeup. How well done is that? And then if you're going through the mazes, you go through some of these different Halloween events, and they just, you're going through the hallways and stuff, and they just like painted the plywood and just slapped paint all over it to make it look like blood, and they call that a Halloween event, maze. So I don't. I want to see the attention to detail. I want to see a story. I like to see that part of it when you're going through a maze. What's the backstory? And that you know that before you go through the maze. It's not just people in there just popping out behind walls and that saying "boo." There's a story to it. So when you see those kind of things, you've got my attention, and I think that's what makes for a good Halloween event. What about you, Ryan?
I mean, I don't disagree with what you're saying. The decor is cool. Quality acting and stuff is cool. But as I outlined before, it's the uniqueness of the experience of Universal is what will essentially garner
Yeah.
my vote.
Well, yeah, it's gonna be, it's going to be hard to to compare anybody else to what they do. Just the level of detail that's there for that. Um, so for you to get your vote though, what Universal does, that's going to get you to go online for this contest, and you would select Universal based on the experience that you're getting there, right?
So I would say for a level playing field, because you can make the argument, all this stuff I've listed, if you gave any other park $5 million for a haunted house, they could do what
Right.
Universal does potentially. I would say that what would garner my vote on a more plain field is a park that shows that they have interest in the event and they
Hmm.
don't just repeat the same stuff all the time. So when you start having mazes for 9, 10, 15 years, stuff like that, not the shows necessarily, because I feel like shows become staples for events like this. So I'm going to give every park out there a pass because they're all guilty of that and probably for a good reason. But if you've got the same mazes and you've
Yeah.
had them since 2005, 2010, or whatever, they've never been updated. Often stuff's been stripped out. Like to me, that's like a huge turnoff. It's when you continue to innovate and you make something exciting, and it's not like, "Well, I went to your event last year and you had the same stuff, so I guess I'll go this year." It's like,
Yeah.
this
Now,
new maze sounds
here's
awesome,
another
you know?
question. Now, are you gonna would you be basing your vote based on the Halloween experience, or would you ever vote for something because I don't care about the Halloween stuff? It's got my favorite roller coaster, and you do see that in these kind of polls where there are parks that get votes because somebody's voting because it's got their favorite ride there. Nothing to do with Halloween.
I mean, to be fair, like, if people voted, and I'm sure there are these people out there, no doubt in my mind, but don't you think that, like, Dollywood's Pumpkins would win 2nd or 3rd place just based on how beloved that park is and the rides are there. You know, that
I think that there would have to be merit to it. I think because of how well done it is, not just because that they would put up pumpkins in the park that it's going to get their vote. I think that when it's based on decor like that and it's very family friendly. I mean, it has to be very well done, and there certainly is very well done. But I think it's subjective too. Everybody has something else they're looking for when they go to a Halloween event. For
right.
some, it's all about the mazes. For some, it's about the decor and atmosphere, like it is for me. And others, it's got my favorite rides there, and I get to ride them until midnight, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, however late the park might be open. So I think there's so many other things that play into it that um, it really gives every park a chance to win this in a roundabout way.
I agree, and you know what's funny is, uh, obviously, there are more elements to it than you would think on the surface because, Universal, Horror Nights, either whether it's Orlando or if it's Hollywood, Mickey's Not So Scary, Disney, what's the one at Disneyland? I just heard this, it's like the Boo Boo Bash or something like none of that stuff wins. You know, highest budget stuff, it never wins. So let me ask you this. So PR guy, marketing guy, who's worked in parks. What do you do from your standpoint to influence people to vote for your park?
Top of mind awareness. It's all about that. You have a short run, maybe what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to get the votes. So you want to use all of your different channels to make sure that your audience, your guests, your pass holders know that you have that event. So that means your social media channels, it means your newsletter, it means using your mobile app, signage in the park, with the QR codes. That all you have to do is put your phone up to it and you cast your vote. You just have to make sure everybody's aware of it. And if you do that, you enhance your chances to win. There's a lot of people, I'd say the majority of the guests that are coming to your park during this period when this contest is running have no idea that this is even out there. So if you can make awareness with in-park signage, or if you have those in-house, TVs and that running messages, uh, just things like that to make people aware of what's going on. I think that enhances your chances to garner votes is by just making everybody aware of it.
I agree. There's also something to be said about your park as an entity having a relationship with these people on an individual level because you can present this QR code of, oh, vote for us for top 10 best Halloween events. But you don't want the people to say, "I'm not doing that." There's gotta be, like, something in the
Well, they
relationship.
have to feel good about it. They would have had, you'd want them to have experienced it or something. The thing I always find odd about this contest in particular is it takes place and it says best Halloween event for that year, like 2023 now.
Mhm.
But no park has opened their event yet. The voting's going to end before everybody really gets underway. A couple parks will be open a little bit for it, but most don't start their event until after this ends. So I always found that a little odd when you're voting for an event you haven't experienced yet this year. So, but from a marketing standpoint, you win. I mean, that's valuable.
Oh, yeah.
You put that out front, of your front gate and all your other messaging. Come experience our event, which won the USA Today for best Halloween event or finished top five, however you want to market that. We talked a couple of weeks ago about a park finished what was it, number two or something? They said voted number two or something in the industry, and just something for people to talk about. But it's a good marketing tool if you do win, and you can play that throughout the entire run of your event.
I agree, and, again, it's probably a lot like the Golden Ticket Awards where the layperson doesn't know and doesn't care, but, "Oh, this was voted best, I wanna go see that." Or, if
Yeah,
anything, it's a subject matter,
yeah.
best
It,
food,
it
best
gives you
kids
it
area,
gives you
whatever.
some it gives you something to boast about it, and it's a nice tool to put out there in front of, like, if the news media comes out to say we're here at this park, which won this award, no matter what the different category is. Best roller coasters, best food, best live entertainment, and they have so many of those different things on those USA Today 10 best different categories that goes on all year long with these different votes. But it is nice. It makes everybody that's involved with that event. So if you're like a scare actor or somebody that was on the decor team, maybe you help build these mazes, whatever your role might be. There's a little pride factor there too that if your park wins, you feel pretty good about it.
Right, and, I think there is something to be said about it because you're not gonna win without a quality event, and not only do you have to have a quality event, you've gotta have that type of a relationship with the general public to be able to present them with like, "Hey, vote for us for this," and them to feel, like, as you mentioned, good about their decision to do so, So I agree. I think that, pulling off these haunt events is not a small feat no matter how it is, whether it's small or it's big or whatever. It's a team effort.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good ones out there. For the first time, I'm in a position where I'm going to get to experience a lot of them. This fall, so I'm excited about that. So yeah, everybody does a great job out there. If you're one of those 20 parks nominated, congratulations, you deserved that opportunity to have people vote for you.
Yeah. So good luck to all of them, and just whatever your favorite park is, I'm sure that they'll be marketing to you, trying to get you to vote for them. So think hard about it. It's election season. Top 10,
Yes.
Reader's Digest top 10. All right. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Well, more to come with the haunt stuff as the haunt things start opening up. We'll talk about individual parks and mazes and attractions and news associated with that. But very interesting. Yeah, the Reader's Digest top 10 thing always comes so early in the year, where they're asking you to vote for sight unseen, which I always question the ethics of that. But
Yeah, it's like almost like the Rawlings Gold Glove Award. It's based on reputation a lot of times.
yeah, yeah, I completely agree. All right, Don. Do you believe it's already time for a little segment we like to call the Pick Six? You have the first
All
one.
right,
Yeah.
I'll get us started here. RMC, they did.
Don, I think you have the first one today.
I do, and it's RMC. They're debuting a new Wild Moose coaster type. These trains have a T-bar design, open air configuration, the tightest turning radius in the industry. It can fit on the spot of any old Wild Mouse model. I think it's very exciting. And when you think of RMC, you're thinking of the big, gigantic thrill rides. So this opens up a whole new ball game for RMC. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's honestly, when I first read about this, I was like, an RMC junior coaster, yeah, whatever. But just the fact that they're completely different trains with a tiny turn radius, that's got me interested, and they're very open air too. It's their most open air
Yeah.
design. I think that's, like, really, really neat. But as you mentioned, one of the things that they mentioned in their press release was that, the Wild Mouse coasters of the past are starting to get retired, except for Cedar Point, which builds a brand new one. But this can fit on the pad for it. So you are going to see this at some of the parks near you, I bet. Wouldn't you think?
I would think so, yes, and, very exciting for RMC, very exciting for fans of RMC.
Yeah, completely agree. Can't wait to see how it turns out. All right, number two. I always get stuck with the Disney stuff, don't I? But alright, I'm gonna have to come up with a whole graphic for this with a firework display, but tram service is returning to Epcot and Disney's Hollywood Studios. Uh,
Yep, they haven't had tram service, what, since the pandemic,
since
so,
since the pandemic, yeah. S
there's so many different ways to get into these parks, with the transportation things that they have, but if you're in the main parking lot, um, depending what time you get there during the day, this is a very valuable, service that, Disney had provided. It's part of the experience for a lot of guests, getting out of their vehicle, hopping on the trams, being transported up toward the front gate, so there's that nostalgia piece of it. I don't myself, I don't think it's not like necessary that you have it at those 2 locations because you're still even if you're pretty far out, you're still not that far out from the gate. But it's nice for the nostalgia piece of it, and like I said, it's history, tradition, just something everybody thinks about. It's their first touch point a lot of times, when they think back on their Disney memories when they first went to a park, was the first thing you did? We got in the tram and went to the front gate.
yeah, I think that's absolutely true, but my main concern would be, somebody in the family that has a little bit of trouble walking super far distances.
Yeah,
That would be my main thing.
it's a great service to have, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. So let's say like somebody just had knee surgery or just tires after walking so far or whatever. If and you can make the argument you're going to go into the park and walk around, that's true. But there's always those people that walk for 5 minutes and then sit, and then walk for another 5 minutes and then sit. Um, but this is a good relief for that for those who maybe have like a minor disability or temporary disability, but don't qualify necessarily for um,
Mhm.
you know,
And like I said, yeah, great service to provide. I got to the point, when we would go to Magic Kingdom and we would take the tram in and to the front gate, but then at night after we left, we had spent so much time, waiting in lines for virtually everything there, and everybody's crowded in all these queues and that to get on these trams, that it was gonna be quicker just to walk back out to our car. So I would skip it at night, going back to the car, but it was a nice service to have, a nice way to start the day with a nice relaxing tram ride, to get to the front gate, back when I first started going to Disney, years ago.
yeah, and uh, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that didn't they add tram spots to Epcot, which they hadn't used until this service kicks in? Have you heard that, or am I just making that up?
I don't remember if they had it or not because I always, came a different way to get there when we would do the hoppers and things. So it was a little different. You were kind of dropped off pretty quick or pretty near the entrance that I never really thought about a tram ride 'cause I wasn't parked in their parking lot.
Yeah, well, because when I was at Epcot a couple weeks ago, they had these. I mean, this is Disney, so you never know. But I thought I remember hearing that they had put in these tram spots. They just never had used them, and they looked brand new. But again, it's Disney, so they could have replaced the entire thing overnight, and it's brand new now, even though they've had it forever. Hollywood Studios, I'm pretty certain had it, and they suspended with COVID and haven't brought it back.
Right.
But
Yeah, I do know studios had it for sure.
absolutely, what do we got next on number three?
Next, we have Six Flags over Georgia. They're going to debut a new Intamin Ultra Surf Coaster model. This model is unnamed right now at this time, but it has 590 feet of track, 144-foot incline, two outward-facing circles of free spinning seats on top of a large board, four airtime spins. That sounds a lot of fun there. And 3 moments of weightlessness, top speed of 60 miles per hour. You're going to go forward and backward with the launches. You hear this a lot, something you've never seen before, but this is something you've never seen before. And no two ride experiences will be the same. That's what I really like about this attraction that's coming to Six Flags Over Georgia, is that no matter how many times you experience it, it's going to be a different experience every time.
I'm fascinated by this. I know that they had the Intamin shuttle water coaster. I'm drawing a blank on the name. I think it was Aquaman at Six Flags Over Texas that took a couple years to
Hmm.
build because of different delays and so on. But that looks really cool, and especially because they've got yeah, the plumes of water, the fountains that come up in the animation. That looks like they got like some theatrics to it and stuff. That'll be as fun to watch as it will be to ride, I feel like.
I do too, and it's like if you're riding it, it's gonna fit all those needs. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be thrilling. It's gonna be something that you're gonna want to do again and again. So I think it's gonna be a tremendous addition to Six Flags Over Georgia.
Absolutely. All right. So going over to Adventureland in Iowa, they've announced the reopening of the Underground. Now, the Underground is a wood coaster. That's a wood coaster slash dark ride. It's been closed for some time, but they have announced that they are reopening it and it's going to be rebuilt. Sorry, the trains are at PTC right now to be rebuilt for the 2024 season. So shout outs to our friends at PTC. The guests will embark on a mission through a mine that goes through beyond just searching for Sheriff Sam's infamous lost cold. Incorporating new technology and effects, guests will find themselves in a story driven experience like never before. As they venture deeper into the abandoned mine, riders will face challenges, unexpected twists, and opportunities to uncover hidden secrets along the way. You know what, Don? This brings back that whole thing of, would you rather, if you had a really great ride, would you rather have it torn down or redone? Kind of like Fire in the Hole 2, don't you
Hmm.
think?
Yeah, exactly with that. And uh, it's I've never been to that park, uh, but I know some people that have, and they tell me that it's a fun place to go to. But here's an opportunity. Now, this is going to create the argument: is this a new credit? Those kind of things will come up in a couple of years. There, once it opens, people will be debating that. But I'm pretty excited about it. I mean, I like the fact that it's story driven. You talked about the backstory there as you're going through and venturing in this abandoned mine. The different challenges the riders are going to face. So yeah, I think I like story driven attractions.
I love
So
dark rides and I love
yeah.
indoor rides, like indoor coasters, so I'm excited about this. I
Yeah.
think it's gonna be fantastic. So
Yeah, I'm with you too on the dark ride. There's not enough of them out there.
I agree. I'm wondering if I don't know if it's cost to maintain, difficult marketability or whatever, but I feel like there needs to be more, don't you?
Oh yeah, for sure on that.
Awesome.
Every park needs a good dark ride or three.
Right. What's next?
Well, a TV news station in Glendale, Arizona, they gave a first look at one of the new Hot Wheels roller coasters being built right now at Mattel's first ever theme park. It's currently under construction right next to where the Arizona Cardinals play football. And out there in Glendale, the Mattel Adventure Park. It's set to open in 2024. It'll feature the Hot Wheels Bone Shaker, the ultimate ride roller coaster, 1,500 feet of linear track. If you drive by right now, so let's get in our car, Ryan, and go by, you can see the roller coaster taking shape. So, some exciting news out there in Arizona. If you're a coaster fan, theme park fan in that part of the country.
Yeah, some YouTuber I was watching, drove past it and showed it. I think it was Adam the Woo. And there's clearly vertical construction. I know that when they announce these parks, in a lot of cases, you and I always have our doubts. This one's happening. Maybe a little late, but it's
This one is
happening.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, if you drive by, you definitely can see it taking shape. And uh, I think, as you mentioned, we talk a lot about, especially in areas like Houston, where there's all these plans, but nothing ever comes about it. This one for sure is gonna happen, opening in 2024. It'd be great if one of us could fit it into our calendar next summer to check it out and come back and report here on the Attractions Group podcast.
That's true. Yeah, maybe have somebody from the park on the show, or maybe somebody from Mattel even to talk about the design phase. That'd be cool. So if you're out there listening, and I know you're not, but if you are, we'd love to have you. All right. Last one, last one. This one's kind of interesting. So, SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment, they've got a guaranteed weather policy where if it rains or if it's too windy and, attractions are closing down, they do have a guarantee against that in which you can return within 12 calendar months. Uh, uh, as of now, it covers rain, lightning, hail, and snow. Uh, but they've added heat to it recently because of the heat wave that's been going through, where if it's too
Hmm.
hot, then you can come back another day. I think that's really nice. The problem that I could see running into is that if it's raining, if it's snowing, if it's hailing, if the rides are closed down because of wind, that's pretty self-evident. But who makes the determination that it's too hot and you need a refund? What are your thoughts?
I think that is the one gray area for me is the heat part of it. Everybody's got a different tolerance level when it's hot outside. Like for me, the hotter it is, the better. I have no problem with that. But someone else, it gets to be 90, 95 degrees and it's too much for them. But I do like the idea of this new policy. A few weeks ago when I was at Holiday World, they have a policy that, you know, your day is impacted by weather and rides are closed down for X number of hours that, you can come back. And I think that's a great guest service to offer that. I'd like to see more parks do that because for some people, they're of modest means, and that might be the only day that they can go to a park, and they get there and it rains all day, and they maybe only got to ride two or three rides, and that's their big summer vacation. So the opportunity to be able to come back on a better day, I think that's just a great guest service to offer.
I agree. Now, let me ask you this: with your experience within the industry, do things like this fall like dominoes? So now we got Holiday World and SeaWorld doing it, where okay, if it's the weather is adversely affecting the guest experience, we're going to invite you to come back. Do you think we'll see that at other parks?
I think eventually, yes. I mean, it's a copycat industry in a lot of ways with things. I think there's going to be a time where you're going to have to get enough information on how many, you know, days were impacted, how many guests took advantage of it. Um, but yeah, I can see more parks, looking to do this, and I think some of them will start to do it as soon as next year.
Yeah, I would say it's gonna be sooner than later. Because look at all the different things that happened at one park and then spread like a wildfire to the others.
Yeah.
We talking
Well, let me
see
ask you this,
Yeah,
Ryan.
go ahead.
Yeah, let me ask you. Say you travel 5, 6 hours and you go to a park. Your first time you've ever been there.
Mhm.
You plan, for months to go there. You get there and it's raining and the majority of the rides are down all day long. You didn't get to really ride what you went there for. If you ask for a refund, you're probably gonna get a no, but if you just ask to exchange your tickets, you get a no. That's gonna maybe, probably leave a sour taste in your mouth, and are you gonna make that trip again, for 5 or 6 hours to go to the same park the next year if that's the way it happened? Or would you look at that and say, well, I can come back tomorrow. That's great because of this policy. Or, I can come back later in the summer and try to figure out another time to go. So is it going to impact, whether or not you go back to that park if they gave you that opportunity?
It depends. Um, the whole no refunds thing is a weird thing with theme parks, because I understand why they have that, and it's a general rule, and it seems like most parks are slipping from it now anyway, in one way or another. But um, yeah, to me, it's like I get that. Okay, the shooting star was down for 2 hours, so I want a refund. We're not doing that. Like,
Well, that part, no, not if like one attraction's down. I think if it's weather impacted,
well,
that's my thing. If it's weather impacted and it's the majority of the day, 90 minutes or more that you couldn't ride certain things, everybody's time's valuable.
mhm,
And if you're just, you have nothing to do when all the rides are down
right,
and a good part of your day was washed out, then I think you have to look at that, or you should look at that. If you go and an attraction, these things are machines,
sure.
things happen, things are going to go down, not be available, and it's disappointing, but that's out of the park's control,
Mhm.
with something like that. Um, so you deal with that. But I think on the other hand, that can be made. Now, on the flip side, if you're a park, you can always say everybody has a mobile phone now. They all have the ability to look up what the weather forecast is going to be by the hour. For the most part, it's not always 100% what what it turns out to be, but everybody had that opportunity before they went there to know what they might be getting into. So there's that argument from the park side too.
Let me play devil's advocate though. So you talk about like everyone's got a mobile phone and they can see the weather. First of all, I don't. But for those of you out of the Cincinnati market, there was a 0% chance of rain this morning. We had a storm from the Wizard of Oz, despite the 0% chance of rain. Did that wake you up this morning? Because it sure as heck woke me up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. So that sort of stuff happens. In addition to that, you got to remember that we're not talking about. uh, you could even argue like your local baseball team or something. You bought a ticket for tonight's game. You knew it might rain. You got to deal with it. Well, with a theme park, if you're traveling 5 or 6 hours, that's the day you have off work, that's when the whole family's available, that's when you got the hotel. Some of that stuff you can't change, you just have to risk it. So,
You have to risk it exactly.
but I don't think that necessarily anybody.
But in baseball, though, if the game gets rained out in baseball, your ticket is good for the makeup date.
Well, of course, yeah. And I would say I was gonna bring that up as, like, kind of a tantamount argument, but I would say, you have to treat everybody like this is the one day that they can go, and kind of have enough respect for your guests in that regard where although you can't control the weather, neither can they. And I would hate to be that CEO or park president that has it communicated out where it might rain today, do not go to this park. They're not going to open anything. So, because I mean, I've seen it before, local water park that used to be around here. First drop of rain, they would always close. So you know what happened? 30% chance of rain, nobody's in the park because you train the
Right.
customer, you train the guest. So I would say giving people a reason to show up no matter what it's imperative to business.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maintaining that you talk about you want to win Reader's Digest top 10 haunt event. Well, if you just screwed somebody early in May because it rained and they couldn't open anything and they bought a 60 or $70 ticket, do you think they're going to go out of their way for you? No, they're not. But if
No,
you
that's why I really do like that policy that, SeaWorld has, Holiday World has. I do like that, and I'd like to see more parks do that.
I think we will see more parks do it. I would say we should probably set our calendars for like July 4th of next year and see how many more parks have implemented a policy like this because I could see, your Six Flags and stuff like that doing it. And honestly, it would probably be the right thing to do. You just have to sharpen the policy, make sure that it's fair for the company and for the guest. And it's funny of all the pick sixes, we're going on and on about this one. We have all these cool news. We got a new RMC coaster type, and we're talking about the rain policy of SeaWorld. Um,
Well, I mean, it impacts your visit, I mean, it really does, and I think that, now that especially now that I'm traveling around to different parks, that's one of the things I'm looking at closely is what does the weather look like, before I go, so I know what to expect. So, yeah, I'm a fan of that kind of a policy where you can come back within X number of days, depending on where it's at. If it's more like a SeaWorld, you have to have a bigger window, because
sure.
you might not be able to, you're not gonna be able to come back, if you live on this side of the country, you're not gonna be able to go back to Orlando, tomorrow kind of a thing. So you have to have a bigger window, the 12 months. And some other ones, maybe it's a 90-day window or it's a, 30-day window, whatever it might be, wherever you're based, you just have to make those decisions and kind of calculate where your guests are coming from and how far on average and those kind of things to come up with what that window is to be able to come back again.
So I've got some additional thoughts on this. So, first of all, I don't think the redemption on this offer is very high. But I think that the goodwill generated from it is huge. So, for example, if I'm at SeaWorld, it rains, half the stuff gets shut down. They offer me like a return ticket, even if it's for 90 days or a year or whatever. I may or may not use it, but I would appreciate the gesture, and I think most people would because
Exactly.
the average person knows we can't run the roller coasters in the lightning or whatever, but they're gonna do what they can do to help you. Um,
Yeah, and there's got to be a realistic thing on the guest, part too of how much of your day was impacted by, because sometimes these storms come through and it's only 30 minutes, 40 minutes, Yeah, it's an inconvenience, but it didn't ruin your day. You still had, 10, 12 hours to do what else you wanted to do.
Yeah.
So,
I think a
you have to
clearly
kinda
defined
have that
policy would be
guideline.
critical for this, just to set the expectation and not make it complicated. I could totally see them having some park having if the rain comes through and it shuts down the rides for 3 hours within the first 6 hours of the day. But yeah, don't do that. Just a flat, like, if the rides are shut down for 3 or 4 hours, you can make a return trip. Simple as that. That's what I would
Mhm.
do. Um, yeah, but yeah, again, I mean, well, you were just in Tennessee, you got free time on your hands. Your wife has a job, and she had to take time off to do this. If it was gonna rain in Pigeon Forge, would you have not gone?
We would have still gone to the park,
Exactly.
for sure.
Like everybody
We would have
else.
still gone to the island, to check it out. Um, the plan would have been different. Maybe I wouldn't have been able to ride as many roller coasters, but you have the live shows, you have the different dining experiences. It would have just been, um, reconfiguring the plan for the day, what I was going to do. That's all I would have done in that situation,
Right,
was
but
just
let's
refigured, what I was gonna do.
so let's assume that some people are like you in some ways and different in other ways. So I would say that, um, most people are like you, and that was your plan, and that's what you're gonna do, and you can't change these plans. So people are gonna go no matter what. That's why, like, if it monsoons, there's still 10,000 people in, the park, whatever the park that is. But at the same time, you and I would probably find value in, like, "Oh, let's look at the shops, let's watch the shows." A lot of people aren't like that. A lot of people are like, "I wanna
No.
ride the big roller coaster as much as possible." Totally their prerogative, and they can't do that because of the weather. So I feel like, the product fell short no matter whose fault that
Mhm.
is. And because of that, I think that this is a really good policy that, um, should be spread around.
Yeah,
Um,
I think though, like anything else that gets introduced, there's gonna be the data gets collected, how many people take advantage of it, but it still comes down to what you said. Most won't take advantage of it, but it's still that goodwill, gesture that they did, and you remember that.
you do?
Um, you certainly remember that, and you also remember if you just get a flat out no.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, no refunds, that's our policy. Yeah. No, I can get my supervisor, but that's the policy, no refunds. That sort of stuff you wanna lose people. I mean, especially, like, I if we're going into, like, a recessionary period when people are really talking about or thinking about how they spend their money. That's what SeaWorld's hedging against. They want people to be like, "You know what? Disney's really expensive, Universal's really expensive, both of which are having a problem with that reputation right now. SeaWorld treated us well. Let's spend 3 days at SeaWorld. Let's do a little trip down." That's how they're gonna hit their home run over the next couple of years if something happens. I don't wanna end this on a down
Yep.
note, but you liked Big Bear Mountain, right? Let's talk positive.
Loved it,
Okay, I did
loved
too.
it.
Alright.
Absolutely loved Big
Don, do you
Bear
have any
Mountain.
final words of wisdom for people? Any, like, financial advice or anything? Don't give
Financial
financial
advice,
advice,
no.
I'm kidding.
No, no, I don't. I'm the last person you want to ask about for that kind of thing. But no, another fun episode. I always look forward to these every week with you, Ryan. I hope our audience does as well. And if you have any, topic ideas, certainly message us, especially on Twitter. That's probably the best place to do that. Um, or X, what it's called now. So just message us, give us the topic ideas. We consider everything. We talk during the week about, what we want to talk about this week a lot of times. Other weeks we have guests that are planned. Now we do have some guests coming
We
up
got some
in the
great guests
next
coming
few
up.
weeks for you.
Yeah.
Ryan, why don't you talk about what we have going on next week, real quick?
So next week, for those of you who like little rides, like, I don't know, Phantom Theater, Adventure Express, Men in Black, Jaws, we've got Rick Bastrup, from R&R Creative Design, who actually is coming out with a book, which is available for pre-order now. We're gonna have him on the show next week to talk about his book and his experience and all sorts of fun stuff like that. So that's not an episode you want to miss. Um, Super excited about that, right?
Very excited about it. Met Rick last summer for the first time. We saw him again in IAPA.
Hmm.
I remember we talked to him about coming on the podcast, and he was like, "Sure, just shoot me an email." And as soon as we heard about the book, you certainly did that. You did what he said, and he got back with you, and very excited to have him on next week.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. So, yeah, so catch us weekly. Also, for those of you who made it to the end, thank you. Make sure you're checking out if you are local to Cincinnati or just a Kings Island fan, check out our other podcast, Tower Topics, which is short, bite-sized episodes talking about individual subjects just about Kings Island and Kings Island adjacent things by searching for Tower Topics in all your favorite podcast apps and on YouTube. Uh, you can follow this show by searching for the Attractions Group podcast on YouTube or your own, you know, podcast apps. I'm like running out of steam here. I'm like about to catch my. I'm not Usain Bolt. I don't have this lung capacity to do this anymore. And make sure you follow us on Twitter/X at attractions_GRP. We'll see you next time, everybody.